That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Book Club, the next chapter, the sophomore film directed by Bill Holderman, which is being released courtesy of Focus Features on May 12th, 2023.
What is Bill's first film?
Book Club.
Did you like that movie?
I loathed the first Book Club, so I went into this kind of dreading it. And I have to say, maybe I was just in the right mood. Maybe it's because I was plied with wine and cheese at this press screening, but it's cute, it's sweet. I'm not the target audience, of course, but I really do like all four leading ladies.
The story, four best friends take their book club to Italy for the fun girls' trip they never had. When things go off the rails and secrets are revealed, their relaxing vacation turns into a once-in-a-lifetime cross-country adventure. The four women are Diane Keaton
As Diane.
Mary Steenburgen
As Carol.
Jane Fonda
Vivian.
and Candice Bergen.
Sharon.
Okay, so they're planning this girls' trip to Europe when Jane Fonda is dating Don Johnson. And they're engaged. And he decides to use that opportunity to plan like a secret wedding for her. Mm-hmm. So this girls' trip now turns into a secret mission to get Jane Fonda's ass to Tuscany so she can marry Don Johnson. But there are obstacles, like their luggage gets stolen and a car breaks down on the way. They have little rendezvous, like Candice Bergen meets some handsome man, and Mary Steenburgen reunites with like the very first love of her life, mm-hmm. who
was the impetus for them wanting to, because they've been friends for 50 years, and they wanted to go to Italy, but that was waylaid because Diane Keaton got pregnant, and there's kind of subplots about, of course, all of their intertwined lives. This film starts out with a montage of Zoom meetings because it begins during the pandemic, and they decide to live, laugh, love again, and head to Italy.
So they do get to Tuscany, mm-hmm. but because of all the obstacles and Jane Fonda's personality, she says, maybe this isn't right. Like, I don't think I want to get married. And Don Johnson says, that's fine. I don't need a certificate to love you. Let's just keep doing what we've been doing. But Diane Keaton's character, she's still holding on to her dead husband. Like, literally, his ashes were in her stolen luggage. So she's had a hard time moving on with her boyfriend, played by Andy García. Mm-hmm. So he uses this opportunity, because he also came out to Italy for this secret wedding. Since Jane and Don aren't going to use it, he wants to use it. So he proposes to Diane Keaton, and they get married there. So that's her little thing.
He goes to Don Johnson, he's like, give me that ring. I would have been like...
Well, I'm assuming they all have money.
They do, but it's just like, it wasn't... I guess the romantic part of it is that it wasn't planned, but it's like...
Well, when you have money, whatever. And then, what's her name? Mary Steenburgen. Mm-hmm. She's married to Craig T. Nelson. Mm-hmm. And during the pandemic, he had a heart attack, so they've been taking things slow and maybe not living life to the fullest. And while she's out there and has this rendezvous with her first flame, which they don't have sex, it kind of reignites something in her, and then he surprises her by showing up because he wasn't supposed to fly in his condition. So then that sort of reignites puts some fire back into their shit. And then Candice Bergen, who's your favorite?
Candice Bergen is, the other thing is, all of these ladies have played version, not just in the first book club, but Diane Keaton and Jane Fonda particularly are acting on this persona that they've done again and again. I mean, Jane Fonda has become the Blanche Devereaux of these old lady groups. Kind of. But yes, Candice Bergen very much is my favorite because she's kind of queen of that withering...
What's the movie with her and Meryl Streep and...
Let Them All Talk. Steven Soderbergh film.
Where they're on a cruise, right? Mm-hmm. Did you like that movie?
I did like that film. Mm-hmm. And despite my reservations about Ms. Streep's overrated capabilities. But, so there we go. We have Jane Fonda doing, because she's kind of like they make her seem like she's just always, sowing her wild oats.
How do you feel about how the movie looks?
It looks fine. It was shot by Andrew Dunn, who shot Precious and The United States versus Billie Holiday. If there can be a series of films by Michael Winterbottom where we're just stuck watching Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon go around eating things, I'm more than happy to see a franchise develop over these four ladies just getting drunk everywhere and enjoying each other's friendship. It is really corny and schmaltzy. I hated the score from Tom Howe. The score... If it didn't have such a terrible score, I think the film would be kind of more palatable than it is, really. That said, if you like any of these ladies, again, Diane and Jane are doing things they've already done. This is the third Jane Fonda film this year after 80 for Brady and Moving On. This feels very much like Jane Fonda's other friend group that she doesn't want to intermingle.
That's smart, though. I recommend that, people. Don't try to get all your friends together. It doesn't work.
Again, but it feels like we've already seen her in this. But again, Candice Bergen, I think, is the funniest one to me. Who also, it seems like she has her real hair. I think she looks fantastic. There's a joke where they're stuck on the side.
You don't think that's Jane Fonda's real hair in the movie?
Definitely not. I was going to talk about that. But they get stuck on the side of the road at one point when they're driving from Venice to Tuscany because they don't want to get on the train again because that's where they lost their luggage, which was their own damn fault because they just gave it away.
Well, honest American mistake.
It's an honest white lady American mistake. But they're like, oh, who are we going to eat first? Jokingly, and they all look at Candice Bergen because she's the biggest one of them. Which I thought was mean, but I think I like Candice Bergen a lot. Jane Fonda's hair is this, it looks very Midwestern woman cut to me, but she's doing this thing that Coco Peru's doing now where it's like this vibrant red but that white streak in it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really too much care for that. Another person that I think is very special to pop up is Giancarlo Giannini, who is the Venetian police chief who takes their complaint, and Candice Bergen's mad and calls him lazy.
Oh, I'm looking at Jane Fonda's hair. This looks like Mary J. Blige's No More Drama era. That's what that looks like.
She could be served better, because I think the other.
Giancarlo
Giannini, who Candice Bergen's character is an ex-judge, and she's kind of the only one because they all kind of give each other tidbits of tough love, and she's the only one that kind of is just fine. Like her major drama is her dead cat died, which was the only thing that was occluding her agreeing to go on this trip in the first place. But Giancarlo Giannini, I think he pops up 3 times, and she was in a very interesting 1978 film directed by Lena Wertmuller with Giannini, because Giannini was in a lot of Wertmuller's films, but the title of which is The End of the World in Our Usual Bed in a Night Full of Rain. And I highly recommend looking up that film if you can get a hold of it, because Candice Bergen in the 70s was pretty damn fly. I still remember the first time seeing her. My parents were watching reruns of SNL, and she was the host, and I was like, oh my God, who is that woman? And she has a very nice moment with a man played by Hugh Quarshie, who's an ex-philosophy professor that's hanging out in Venice. He's the one that takes them to this cooking school where Mary Steenburgen's initial flame happens to be, that he happens to run it, and they're having sex out on a boat in one of the canals, and Giannini waylays them. But there's kind of a sexy moment where Hugh Quarshie gets up and sings Laura Branigan's Gloria in Italian, which, that's pretty impressive. Again, I don't think it's perfect by any means. I think what I appreciated, it was low on the cringe moments where I felt like, oh, these ladies are too good for this material. And again, back in the heyday, the 60s and 70s, where you had these, aging Hollywood divas that were shunted off into old biddy horror, because that was the only thing that made money that could star them. I think it's very nice to see that there is an audience. Like, I imagine my mother and her friends seeing this, and I wish would have their own adventures like this, and in ways that aren't, I think, kind of like privileged and annoying, like a lot of Nancy Meyers movies. But yeah, so it's enjoyable. You know exactly what you're getting when you go into this. I liked it better than 80 for Brady. I liked it much better than the first book club. So there is that going for it.
What would you give it?
I'm still going to give it about 2.5, despite this sounding like a very glowing review. It is very limited, but again, have your little rosé, and get drunk with your girlfriends.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.